Thank you, Rajesh. So as Rajesh says, my name is Khaled Tawfik. I was born and raised in Egypt, and I subsequently lived in various countries. Recently, I was back there during a very interesting and disruptive event, and I'm here to share my experience with you and some of my opinions with you as well. So everybody knows the history of Egypt, long, illustrious history, been going on for thousands of years. But in more recent times, it actually hasn't been going so well. Economically, politically, socially, you name it, the country had been going quite badly. This has been particularly true in the last 30 years, which is essentially my life, my entire life. It was also the majority of the political life of one man. 1981, I was not yet born. President Reagan was in office, and Hosni Mubarak got inaugurated as the president of Egypt. 89, I was a boisterous young kid. Bush Sr. got into office, still Mubarak in power. 93, I got even more boisterous. Democrats held office, and President Mubarak still. 2001, the picture continues. 2010, I look a little bit more calm. My classmates will probably disagree with that. President Obama came into office, and an older-looking President Mubarak. Now, when you compare this with the fact that 2/3 of Egyptians are actually younger than me, you start to get a sense of the lack of political freedom we had. But it wasn't just that. It was rampant poverty. It was police corruption. It was just a stranglehold on the population. We were essentially in a free fall. The government was oppressing the people, and in turn, the people turned apathetic. We weren't contributing to society. We weren't contributing to building the country. We weren't doing anything. And in turn, the country got worse, the government got more power, and we did even less. And the cycle continued. And there was seemingly nothing to change that. But then January 25th came. January 25th, 2011. That was the day that changed a lot in Egypt. I was still in London at the time, and I saw what happened, and I actually didn't think it was going to be that major. I thought it was a protest, a serious protest, but it's fine. And I was scheduled to go back to Egypt on the 27th, 2 days later. And I went ahead, still not imagining what was about to happen. And I remember that night I was sitting with my parents, and all of a sudden I'm looking at my mobile phone, and it's not working. My parents' mobile phones weren't working. The internet wasn't working. And that's when I realized, okay, something really major was about to happen. This was really serious, and this was the government's effort to try to thwart it before it happens. So the next day, Egyptians really did go out in force. And the revolution was triggered by a number of things. It was what happened in Tunisia. It was the increasingly corrupt elections. But most of all, it was a group of young, internet-savvy, courageous people that decided that they'd had enough, that they were no longer going to accept what is happening. They risked their lives. They had comfortable jobs, but yet they decided that now is the time for us to do something, to change something. I remember walking in Tahrir Square and seeing people from all walks of life after that. It was men, women, old, young, Christians, Muslims, educated, uneducated. The passion was just, you could sense it in the air. It was a truly, truly inspiring feeling to walk through there and see that the people had their voice back. We were finally there to get our country back. This was about Egypt. It was about getting our dignity back, about getting our country back. Well, as is often the case in Egypt in prior years, the government responded. The police responded. They fired tear gas. They fired rubber bullets. They fired live bullets. They beat up people. They tried anything they could. It was a long battle. But finally, they retreated. The police left Tahrir Square. But they didn't just leave Tahrir Square. They left all of Egypt. So there was no police force anywhere in Egypt. And as you can imagine, this created a huge security void for us. The military went into the streets to protect the people, but that still wasn't enough. What happened is it created a whole environment for looters and thugs to try to come into the streets and take advantage of this, as happens with anything like that. And I remember on a daily basis, we would walk down in our neighborhoods with whatever weapons we could get our hands on. I had a baseball bat. Some people had guns. Some people had tree branches, kitchen utensils, you name it. We were just there to protect our neighborhood. And one night, I remember this very clearly, I hear a huge grumbling noise. And of course, everybody stands at attention, very anxious about what's about to happen. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this huge tank roll 200 meters down the street from me. And this image was just a surreal image that, for me, was a perfect depiction of the severity of the situation. This was the chaos we were in. But yet, at the same time, amidst all this anxiety, I had a very strange, comforting sense of being within my community, within my neighbors, protected by my neighbors, and helping to protect my neighbors. This was happening all over Egypt. The resolve of the people never faded. The passion of the people never faded. And indeed, on February 11th, that power did topple the regime. And we're talking about a regime that was in power for 30 years, not dented by any group's attempts to take them down. And yet, when the people decided that enough is enough, they did get taken down. But where does that leave us now? Where does that leave us now? Well, things aren't going so well, actually. The economy is not doing too well. Security concerns still remain. There are multiple factions and multiple groups of people trying to illegitimately take power. People are quite pessimistic. Anybody I talk to in Egypt is very pessimistic. They feel like things are not going so well and probably will not go so well. But yet, I am actually quite optimistic and quite hopeful. And that's because of one thing. This revolution did not topple a regime. It actually changed the Egyptian people. It transformed us. And I see it everywhere around me. I see it in my friends. I even see it in myself. To give you an example, 2 of my friends beforehand were not involved in the community whatsoever, not involved in politics whatsoever. One of them has just joined the political party in a capacity to improve educational policies. And the other is setting up forums to host political leaders to answer about their policies to the citizens. Even myself, I came to London Business School to actually continue working in London and get an internship over the summer in London. Well, I'm no longer doing that. I'm actually due to go to Egypt in 2 months and do my internship there for the summer with an eye of returning afterwards. The apathy and the downward cycle that I described before has turned into an upward cycle. The apathy is gone. We're contributing to society. As I said, we're forming political parties and joining these political parties. And as we heard in the video before us, this would have never happened had an external force tried to impart that change on us. This had to be driven by us. This is what made us believe that we can really have that impact. This is what made us believe that any action we take can really change our country. But at the same time, I also thought to myself, why did I wait until this to make a change? I wasn't actually doing anything beforehand. Why did I need somebody else to do a disruptive event for me to actually go out and do something that has an impact on my community? And I think this is something that each and every one of us should ask ourselves in our own little words. What can you do that has changed? What can you do that disrupts your environment and improves it? This is something very important that I learned from it. Now, for us Egyptians, the impetus on us is to continue this transformation. We have to become informed citizens. We have to use our relevant expertise to rebuild Egypt's failing institutions and failing systems. We have to hold our leaders accountable. And most importantly, we have to become the leaders ourselves. Thank you.